They say it's only real if somebody remembers. They say your legacy is only real if they can point and say that's him. If the room goes quiet when I walk in, if my shadow's longer than my sin, numbers climbing, names on screens, always craving accolades and needing to be seen. If they don't see me, I don't matter. If I'm not winning, what's the use? I gotta leave something carved in stone, something louder than the truth I know. 'Cause silence feels too close to death, and being forgotten scares me most. The world says it only matters if they see me, if they know my name. If I'm up in lights, I gotta burn it so they remember. Before the darker night claims the light, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Yeah, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Say my name, don't let me fade away. I watch the faithful go unnoticed, hands so dirty from the work they never chase. Recognition, always walking in faith. Every prayer said in the shadows, every choice nobody praised. They weren't building monuments to fame, just kneeling to pray. Even when it was tough to stay, I felt the weight of what I wanted and the cost of what it took. I was chasing something empty while the answer overlooked. Chase the crowd just to feel complete. I measure worth by clout, by those surrounding me. But there's only one name that matters, and I laid mine down to claim it. All these years I tried to leave a legacy when I was called to carry his name. The only thing worth leaving behind is a life that pointed back to him. Not my glory, not my fire, just faith that held when the whole world dimmed. It shouldn't matter if they knew my name. My life should be the proof of his glory. What matters is what they saw in me when the world was watching. Now I live my life. It never mattered if they saw me or if they ever knew my name. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day, then I ran my race the right way. Let the lights fade, let the noise fall. Heaven knows the choice I made. I don't need my name in the spotlight if they saw Jesus in my walk each day. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day. If heaven knows my
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at klrnradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods.
Hi,
If you
JJ.
haven't heard of
How
it
you
yet,
doing?
Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know
Closer
that
to
it
6
is
now, but
impossible to
thank
figure
you.
out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find
Or you
Good
can
Pods
just
on the
tune in
web
right here.
or download the app. Happy listening.
Thanks, JJ.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's called.
Had to be done. Not even sorry. Anyway, welcome into the program. For those of you not watching on video, you're wondering why I'm laughing. I decided to start cabbage patching to the intro. Can't really see it very well because how the camera's set up. Also, you guys are lucky because I was going to do an experiment today and then forgot to change the settings. So apparently YouTube is gearing things towards mobile mode now. So if I look weird tomorrow, you'll understand why. I mean, if you've seen my face, I already look weird, so that's kind of beside the point and a bit redundant, but still. All right, so we're live, and good God almighty, do we have so many things to talk about. And I heard, and Denny's already in the chat and asking me a question, and I heard some rumblings about it as I shifted gears from watching news in the front room to moving into my office and starting to put notes together. But I haven't seen anything specific on it yet. I will probably see what I can find to add that into the mix for hour 2. However, I got to be honest with you folks. I got to be honest. I think America is due for a dose of tough love. And I've been saying this now for a while. In my opinion, this is one of the first times in a long time that I have said that I disagree with something that Donald Trump has done. With as hard line as he's taken with everything else that he's dealing with, as soon as a group in Minneapolis or wherever they were in Minnesota said, hey, we're going to declare an autonomous zone, he probably should have just sent in the army. But like, hey, if this is on an autonomous zone, that means it's not American territory anymore, which means, guess what? Now I can actually send my War Department in, and you won't like what happens. Because at this point, I think we are dangerously close to the Insurrection Act. This is what we're going to open the show with. I have, for those of you who if Governor Jazz Hands Walls gives you, if you make sure your ears bleed, you have my permission to turn off the audio if you've already heard it. But we got to discuss this. So, because this is going to be the crux of hour 1. Here we go.
ICE agents are going door to door, ordering people to point out where their neighbors of color live. They're pulling over people indiscriminately, including U.S. citizens, and demanding to see their papers. And at grocery stores, at bus stops, even at our schools, they're breaking windows, dragging pregnant women down the street, just plain grabbing Minnesotans and shoving them into unmarked vans, kidnapping innocent people with no warning and no due process. Let's be very, very clear. This long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. Instead, it's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of Minnesota by our own federal government. Last week, that campaign claimed the life of Renee Nicole Good, We've all watched the video. We've all seen what happened. And yet, instead of conducting an impartial investigation so we can hold accountable the officer responsible for Renee's death, the Trump administration is devoting the full power of the federal government to finding an excuse to attack the victim and her family. Just yesterday, 6 federal prosecutors, including the longtime career prosecutor leading the charge to investigate and eliminate fraud in our state's programs, quit their jobs rather than go along with this assault on the United States Constitution. But as bad as it's been, Donald Trump intends for it to get worse. This week, he went online to promise that, quote, the day of retribution and reckoning is coming. That's a direct threat against the people of this state who dared to vote against him 3 times and who continue to stand up for freedom with courage and empathy and profound grace. All across Minnesota, people are stepping up to help their neighbors who are being unjustly and unlawfully targeted. They're distributing care packages and walking kids to school and raising their voices in peaceful protest, even though doing so has made many of our fellow Minnesotans targets for violent retribution. Folks, I know it's scary, and I know it's absurd that we all have to be defending law and order, justice, and humanity while also caring for our families and trying to do our jobs. So tonight, let me say once again to Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, end this occupation. You've done enough. Let me say 4 critical things to the people of Minnesota. 4 things I want you to hear as you watch the news and look out for your neighbors. First, Donald Trump wants this chaos. He wants confusion. And yes, he wants more violence on our streets. We cannot give him what he wants. We must protest loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. Indeed, as hard as we will fight in the courts and at the ballot box, we cannot and will not let violence prevail. You're angry, I'm angry. Angry is not a strong enough word, but we must remain peaceful. Second, you are not powerless, you are not helpless, and you are certainly not alone. All across Minnesota, people are learning about opportunities, not just to resist, but to help people who are in danger.
All right, I hate to do this, you guys, but we're gonna start taking this apart in pieces. So we're gonna back this part up right here. So hang on.
So tonight, let me say once again to Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, end this occupation. You've done enough. Let me say 4 critical.
Okay, so first of all, what occupation? ICE is being sent in because they are immigrations and custom enforcement, and you are not, I repeat, not enforcing federal immigration laws. If you don't want ICE going door to door within your city or your state, it's pretty simple. Then you honor ICE detainers. If this is the part that just makes me so. Look, I'm telling you, there will likely be a couple of Rick's rants today because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of having to talk about this with everything else that's going on. But there's a reason they want you focusing on this. And we're going to talk about how all of this starts out through places like Minnesota and Michigan and the few other places where we're now starting to see all these different things that are happening. But the thing that irritates me about this, if anybody in Minnesota is listening to the sound of my voice, I need to say this to you. You need to start petitioning your governor to honor ICE detainers if you want this chaos off your streets. Because everybody that I hear on the left is like, well, Donald Trump said he was going to go after the worst first. Yeah, that's when he thought he would have cooperation from the state and local officials to go in and get rid of the rapist and the murderers that have already been adjudicated or have been charged. That's what nobody's telling you about. The guy that Renee Good lost her life to protect was a rapist, a child rapist. Why are we defending people like this? On one hand, you guys are screaming and yelling that the real reason that the Epstein information hasn't come out is because Donald Trump is obviously a pedophile. But on the other hand, you're protecting child rapists on the daily, actual people that we know have done bad things to children, and you people are protecting them on the daily. So I don't want to hear any of this about how you're standing up for law and order and you're doing this and it's because of your humanity and blah, blah. No, if it was about humanity, you would be protecting the children because somebody has to. And I'm tired of the narrative being spun. And I'm tired of the national news media doing everything they can to inject a vibe instead of giving you the facts. And I had this argument with my producer today. For those of you who don't know, I use our artificial intelligence as a show producer to a point where it helps me gather the data and everything else. So I kept having it pull up different stories and different angles, and it kept trying to inject the national news narrative back into things, like how prices are still so much worse than they were supposed to be. Like, okay, so let's break this down logically. Tell me what the egg prices were in January of 2025 versus now. Well, there's a significant price drop between January 2025 and now, but the reason is this. No, I didn't ask you what the reasons were. I asked you why you're still telling me that Americans are complaining about prices. You know why Americans are complaining about prices? Because that's what the media that they are ingesting is telling them to do. So then, just to prove a point, I had it pull up the national average for gasoline between January 2025 and January 2026. It gave me the retail prices average instead because it's still doing it's driven by a consensus engine. It doesn't want to start arguments. So it finds what it finds as much middle ground as it can to give me the data that it needs. So I started yelling at it, which was another reason why I was almost late to my own show. Like, look, when I'm doing shows like this, all of my shows actually, I want data, not your vibe. Because the truth is, if the American people were actually looking at the data of everything that was going on and not being wrapped in their feelings and wrapping their feelings as if it's their flag, or wrapping themselves in their feelings as if it was their flag, and we're actually looking at the facts, you guys would understand that in Minnesota, you are protecting actual criminals. Not even necessarily talking about the ones who broke into the country. They are criminals too, or what they do wouldn't be being called being illegal. But we can put that aside for right now. If you guys really want the worst of the worst gone first, then honor ICE detainers, because then they just go get them when they get picked up on these charges and be like, well, you know what? We don't even care whether you're guilty of this or not. We're just going to deport you. And you know what? For the first time in a decade, the country has net negative migration, which is a good thing. Nobody's talking about this either. House prices are falling. You know why? Because there aren't as many illegals gobbling up rental properties as fast as they can find them. You know why else? Because wages are rising. This is what happens. This is what happens. When you have somebody in charge that wants to put America first, no, GPT. I don't use Grok as much as I used to because Elon likes to change him every other 5 minutes and it's too hard to retrain him. GPT doesn't get updated as often, so I only have to go in and rebreak its consensus engine about once a month instead of every other week. Sorry, responding to the chat. For those of you who are listening later. But no, seriously though, if you guys really want less chaos, it's pretty simple. Honor ICE detainers. But it's not about that because, like it or not, Tim Walz is the one who wants the chaos. He tells you it's Trump, but it's not. It's him because he knows he's about to get his ass handed to him if we keep talking about this instead of talking about the fraud that just came to light right before all this started popping off. I do not believe in coincidence. I'm going to tell you again. Pay attention because there's a reason he keeps wanting to talk about this and not the other stuff that we're finding. But we're going to let this keep going again now.
Things to the people of Minnesota. 4 things I want you to hear as you watch the news and look out for your neighbors. First, Donald Trump wants this chaos. He wants confusion. And yes, he wants more violence on our streets. We cannot give him what he wants. We must protest loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. Indeed, as hard as we will fight in the courts and at the ballot box, we cannot and will not.
So by peacefully, does the ICE agent that got attacked with a shovel last night count as peaceful? Is that Tim Walz's definition of peaceful? Because they're making a big deal about this too. So we're going to break that down later. But I just wanted to put that bug in here for the moment. Here we go.
Let violence prevail. You're angry. I'm angry. Angry is not a strong enough word, but we must remain peaceful. Second, You are not powerless. You are not helpless, and you are certainly not alone. All across Minnesota, people are learning about opportunities, not just to resist, but to help people who are in danger.
What's the plan to resist? Why are you resisting us trying to round up people that have committed crimes? And if you really wanted to, not have ICE going door to door and pulling these random traffic stops that you're talking about, which don't happen, by the way. ICE doesn't do traffic stops. ICE does pulling people out of cars when they're creating impediments to them doing their jobs. But as often as it's happening, and I said this last night on Gene's show, I think it's time for ICE agents to start being trained in routine traffic stops. Although I just used a word that I myself don't even like to use because there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. But if they had the training that local law enforcement goes through, it would make their lives so much easier at this point, especially because, too many sanctuary cities and sanctuary states don't have local law enforcement on hand the way they're supposed to. But anyway, let's let him keep talking now.
Thousands upon thousands of our fellow Minnesotans are going to be relying on mutual aid in the days and weeks to come, and they need our support. Tonight, I want to share another way you can help. Witness. Help us establish a record of exactly what's happening in our communities. You have an absolute right.
We have an ironclad record of what happened with Ms. Good. You guys refuse to believe it. We've shown you angle after angle after angle of the officer being struck by her vehicle. We've shown you proof using forensic data points that one of the shots entered through the front of her car because otherwise it wouldn't have been able to hit the windshield. Just saying. You guys don't want to believe it, so it doesn't matter. So feel free, keep recording. It won't matter because all you're doing is proving to people that actually have an ounce of common sense that you guys are not the heroes of this narrative.
To peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct these activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see these ICE agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of the atrocities against Minnesotans, not just to establish a record for posterity, but to bank evidence for future prosecution. The third thing I want to say to you tonight is we will not have to live like this forever. Accountability is coming at the voting booth and in court. We will reclaim our communities from Donald Trump. We will reestablish a sense of safety for our neighbors. And we will bring an end to this moment of chaos, confusion, and trauma. We will find a way to move forward, and we'll do it together. And we'll not be alone. Every day, we are working with business leaders, faith leaders, legal experts, and elected officials from across this country. They've all seen what Donald Trump is trying to do to our state, and they know their states could be next. And that brings me to the fourth thing I want to say tonight, Minnesota. How incredibly proud I am of the way that you've risen to meet this unbearable moment. But I'm not at all surprised, because this is who we are. Minnesotans believe in the rule of law, and Minnesotans believe in the dignity of all people. We're a place where there's room for everybody, no matter who you are, or who you love, or where you came from. A place where we feed our kids, we take care of our neighbors, and we look out for those in the shadows of life. We're an island of decency in a country being driven towards cruelty. We will remain an island of decency, of justice, of community, of peace. And tonight I come before you simply to ask, don't let anyone take that away from us. Thank you, protect each other, and may God bless the people of Minnesota.
I do sincerely hope God blesses the people of Minnesota, sir, but I would also like to point out that I really hope that God damns you. And I said what I said. I don't even care anymore. I am so angry and tired of this taking up so much of my time. Because we should be talking about so many other things. But because this again happened last night, we have to talk about it. So hang on, I'm gonna get this pulled up. Hang on. These are some quick clips of what happened last night with the guy with the shovel from Bill Malugin over at Fox News. But here we go. All right, so that's clip number 1. Let's keep looking here. And just to give full credit where credit is due, I'm actually pulling this from another source. This is from an article put together through Town Hall, but they have some of the video clips, so I'm just pulling them from there instead of editing my own. So hang on, I want to show you guys something. Now, in this video that we just started playing, this clip, I'm pretty sure Minnesota has city ordinances about setting off fireworks, which makes this now an unlawful assembly. You can see it right there at the beginning of the clip. That automatically, that one thing alone makes this entire assembly unlawful now. This is what I'm saying. It's time for tough love in America again. Because if the laws were actually being enforced and if we were using the actual data instead of continuing to have this obsession with have to worry about how we feel and have to worry about the vibe, and who cares? Because if America feels like things are more expensive, then they're more expensive. Guess what? They're 10 times cheaper than they were under Biden already. But you don't know that because in certain parts of the country it hasn't happened yet, but it's not because of the president. It's because of state and city ordinances that require certain things to happen in certain ways and attach additional taxes and this, that, and the other. The thing about it is, when it comes to the left, they want it both ways. They want you to blame the federal government for all the price hikes and everything else, but they also don't want to accept responsibility for their breakdowns in their own enforcements when the federal government has to come in and take care of things like immigration and customs enforcement because they refuse to accept ICE detainers. Freedom comes with a cost. Freedom comes with the understanding that you have at least a limited responsibility in governing yourselves. And when you can't do that or refuse to do that, somebody has to be the adult in the room. And for the longest time, we have put feeble people in positions of power and convinced ourselves that they were the adults in the room. And now, because we have so I mean, granted, so here's an analogy I came up with, and we're gonna have to take a break because I gotta all of a sudden I came back into my studio and something in my studio is setting off my allergies. So I'm gonna have to fix that on the break. But anyway, because yeah, my nose completely closed off like within 5 minutes of me sitting down, and I've been fine all morning. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm gonna have to do a deep clean in here and figure out what's causing it. But I call this America's rebellious teenage phase. I thought we went through that in the Civil War, but I guess that was only round 2 or round 1, and I think we're hitting round 2 now. But anyway, so I could stop sounding like Fran Drescher. We're gonna take a break. Give me just a second. All right, we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Maybe is it gonna play or not? Hang on, it's my fault. One moment, please. All right, now let's play it. Be right back.
It's for an oath to make a difference ran toward danger while others turned away. Now it seems the world's against him, and no one knows quite what to say. Live the life and follow the path forged in fire, burning bright through the darkest night. Though the world may turn its back on him, he still stands. Won't lose the fight. He walked through fire with no applause, carried burdens that nobody saw, judgmental words and glares that wound. A price has been paid that few can understand. Live the life and follow the path forged in fire, burning bright through the darkest night. Though the world may turn its back on him, he still stands. Won't lose the fight. Maybe strength was an armored war. Maybe it was the truth they chose to endure. When the world turned cold and he felt some more, he still rose to carry on. Live the life and follow the path forged inside us, burning bright through the darkest night. Though the world may turn its back on him, he still stands. Won't lose the fight. Backbone laid in fire, still alive. To every former but current member of law enforcement, thank you. He swore an oath to make a difference, ran toward danger while others turned away.
The following program
Now it
contains coarse language
seems
and adult
the
themes.
world's against
Listener
him,
discretion is
and no one knows quite what to say.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I have my allergies at bay for a little bit. Hang on. Let me put my hat back on so you aren't seeing the glare of my forehead. 1 moment, please. Although I have noticed, unfortunately, my hairline is starting to recede, so I guess I now have closer to a 5 head. But at least I still have more hair than Sean, so there's that. And yes, Jenny, you make a valid point. I was going to address this before I stepped away to go deal with the sudden onset of not being able to breathe through my nose. They can actually edit this database that they're collecting. to make it look however they want. And they've been doing that. If you'll notice, a lot of the videos that they're sharing of the original incident, and we'll get back to this other one in a minute, but a lot of the ones they're sharing of the original incident have been slowed down to make it seem like the dude that wound up shooting her had so much more time to think than what he actually had. And that's part of what annoys me. I mean, trust me, I wish he hadn't been shot either, but I also wish he wasn't dumb enough to say, hey, let's go impede ICE and see and make some, then get some social media clout. Which, you know, the now widow of the crazy woman has pointed out was kind of their entire plan all along. They wanted to film this stuff for social media so they could be heroes. We can be hero. Oh, sorry. Never mind. I'll quit. So yeah, just to read the original post from Bill Malusian. Breaking, and this was several hours. This was yesterday while I was live. Breaking, I'm told by 4 law enforcement sources, there has been another ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. Tonight, I'm told ICE was making contact with a target who then allegedly assaulted an officer with a shovel or swung a shovel, possibly a broomstick. Shots were fired and the suspect ran. The part that came out later was dude was actually ambushed in the middle of trying to approach this target. 2 other people ambushed him in the process. The original person that he was trying to apprehend on charges that were outstanding got loose and attacked him at last report either with a shovel or a broom handle. As I pointed out with Amish last night, anything can be considered a weapon, especially when you're swinging it at law enforcement. So yes, it is past time for tough love in America, in my opinion. And I mean, like I said, I feel like we're in America's teenage rebellion phase, and most of the people that we consider parents have just fell asleep at the switch. All right. So let's see. All right, so we got to talk about some other stuff because I feel like I've given the shooting incidences and the riots, and yes, they're riots, they're not protests. But I feel like there's other things that we really, really need to be talking about. So, did you guys know there's a new January 6th committee? Because I did, but I didn't know if you guys did or not. So apparently, Jamie Raskin had a few choice things to say during this J6 committee. And hang on. Oh, come on. Sorry, my mouse is being dumb again. Okay, there we go. Like it's being laggy again, but
I would just commend to everybody the testimony of Pamela Hemphill, who was a convicted insurrectionist and yet was pardoned. She rejected her pardon.
Mr. Romano, did you prosecute anyone related to January 6th for engaging in an insurrection?
No, Congresswoman.
I didn't think so. So Mr. Raskin's statement that someone was a convicted insurrectionist is actually inaccurate. Isn't that correct?
I wouldn't say it's inaccurate. Well, a convicted insurrectionist.
She wasn't a convicted insurrectionist, was she?
Would the gentlelady yield?
No, I will not. Mr. Romano.
Do you accept seditious conspiracy as insurrection?
Mr. Romano, I will reclaim my time. Mr. Romano, did you prosecute anyone for engaging in an insurrection related to January 6th?
For the crime of insurrection?
You did not, did you?
I love how she points out, hey, was this person actually convicted of insurrection? Well, no, but you see, what really happened was, no, were they convicted of the crime of insurrection? Yes or no? Would you yield? No, I will not, because you're being retarded. That was, for those of you who don't know, because she's new on my radar, that's Representative Harriet Hageman. I'm going to be looking into her here in a little bit. I guess that was the only clip. I thought there was another one. No, there's one more, I guess, but I don't know if is that the same one? Let's find out together. It looks like it's different, or at least if it is the same one, it isn't as heavily edited as the other one. So let's find out together. And sorry for scrolling so fast for those of you that are on the screen.
Mr. Romano, did you prosecute anyone related to January 6th for engaging in an insurrection?
No, Congresswoman.
I didn't think so. So Mr. Raskin's statement that someone was a convicted insurrectionist is actually inaccurate. Isn't that correct?
I wouldn't say it's inaccurate.
You wouldn't say it's inaccurate, but you didn't try, charge, or convict anyone, or charge, try, or convict anyone for insurrection. Wouldn't that on the face of this stuff make it inaccurate? I mean, I'm just asking. You know, that's what I do. I ask questions. It's my job. I try to make people think. And again, if we weren't so wrapped up in our feelings, we would start asking ourselves why it was that whatever happened on January 6th, whatever flavor you want to put behind it, was allowed to happen in the first place. Because guess what? They're now finding voter irregularities, and they've known about them for a while in places like Michigan. So now you've got Michigan and you've got Georgia with known voter irregularities. We talked about this stuff on the night of the election and the morning of the next day, right here on this network, when we decided to shut down because there were precincts that were taking their ball and going home because of data issues and water leaks and everything else, and how counting was supposed to resume at sometime between 8 and 9 in the morning the next day. Well, at that time, because we were all living in the grip of COVID, and this is when I still had another job where I was actually working for the University of Oklahoma. We had been allowed to work from home, and we were told it was only going to be 2 weeks. So during that time frame, we started a morning show because I had a rather lengthy commute when I was working for the University of Oklahoma, and I didn't want to get used to being able to roll out of bed at 8:15 and log in at 8:30 and do my job while we were working from home. So we started a morning show all the way back in March of 2020, I believe. Yeah, March of 2020, when we were told it was 2 weeks to slow the spread. So this is November of 2020. So keep in mind we've gone from 2 weeks to slow the spread to 8 months. But at that point, I was still working from home, but we didn't know how long it was going to last. So instead of just giving up and shelving the morning show, we kept it going. So by then we had rebranded and tried to make it more serious, because in the beginning it kind of started as a joke because we were making fun of this whole COVID thing. You know, we called it the Kung Flu Spew because we thought it was funny and creative, and we thought it was only going to last a couple of weeks. So when we realized it was going to last longer, we rebranded, tried to make it a more serious morning show news style program with a host and a co-host, and it was myself and Stacey Lennox. And we had a lot of fun while we were doing it. But that was one of the reasons why at a little after 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, we decided to go ahead and call it quits for the night, because that gave me time to get about a 3.5 hour nap in before I had to start getting up and pull notes together for the morning show, which started at 7 Eastern. And yes, back then it took a long time to gather notes. It's not as easy as it is now. Still takes a while, but it's not anything like it was. But so I get up and I'll be honest, I overslept a little bit that day, so I got up at like 5. I'm like, I still have 5 my time, which is 6. It's like, I still have an hour to start working on the notes. That should be more than enough time. And I can send some stuff to Stacy, and she can fire some stuff back to me, and we'll get the first hour ironed out, and then kind of do the other one in gaps while we're going over first hour, which is kind of what we did. But I made this amazing discovery. So after being told, by all the national news outlets that counting was going to be stopped, which as far as I know has never happened any time in our history before, and that counting was going to resume at sometime between 8 and 9 o'clock Eastern time the following day, I got up in the morning and suddenly there were all these reports of the ballot fairy showing up. Suddenly there were truckloads of ballots, most of which were president only. And the vast majority of them were for Joe Biden, which defies all mathematical logic. But again, in America, you can't talk about logic anymore. You have to talk about feelings. If you're not in touch with your feelings, and if you're not living the vibe, then you're not an actual American anymore. if you don't understand that the reason they were allowed to do these things is because there were a bunch of people that started believing their own press about Donald Trump being literally Hitler. But the problem with their entire narrative of this man being literally Hitler, which they're still pushing today, by the way, is he left before checkout time. You then have, and now we know this for a fact, a heavily edited piece of information from the British Broadcasting Company that made it appear, when it was run as a legitimate news story, that Donald Trump was calling for an insurrection. We now know that that was false, that it was heavily edited, and that the BBC has been sued over it. What we also know that is irrefutable now is Georgia is admitting that there were 315,000 votes that did not have proper chain of custody and should never have been counted, but they were. I would like to remind you that even if that didn't change the face of the national level election, it would have changed the face of who won the Senate race, because Warnock only won by a little over 1,500 votes. You can't tell me that in order for him to be able to win by 1,500 votes, that most of those 315,000 weren't swung his direction. Then you have, and this is something that was brought up in a session with Congress in 2021, in January of 2021, just after January 6th, and just a couple months after the election in November, that there were ballots in Michigan that were showing up as military ballots overseas, that the people that they were entering ballots for weren't registered in their rolls. They could find no record of them. And according to the person giving sworn testimony in front of Congress, and I played it yesterday, they said these things look like they were photocopies, but they were telling us we had to count them anyway. And there were hundreds and hundreds of them that came in a truck in the middle of the night at about 3 in the morning Eastern time in Michigan. These are all things that I was censored for trying to tell you about at the time. These are all things that my network was downvoted and demonetized for a time because I was trying to bring you the truth and I wasn't allowed to say it. And this is why all of this matters. The fomenting of the agita that's going on, the fact that you have people that have been stealing from us to the tune of billions of dollars, and we're now starting to find the proof of it and the truth of it, and the fact that they stole an election from you in 2020. Not from me, but from you. There is now proof that they stole an election from you. Actually, they stole multiple elections from you, because Michigan likely would have had a different outcome, at least at the House and Senate level. Georgia likely would have had a different outcome at the House and Senate level. But if we're finding that level of fraud in these two places, as far as voter election integrity, how much more is there? Because the Supreme Court just decided yesterday that a certain Congress critter did actually have standing to file a lawsuit for election integrity, and I believe it was in Ohio. So now we're about to find out what was going on in Ohio. Morning, Raptor. Thanks for stopping by, man. Hope everything's good with you. But seriously, this is why there are so many other things that we should be talking about rather than the agita that's happening in Minneapolis and a few other places. Because here's the thing. And as much as I like Trump for what he said, because he did, this is from his Truth Social account, and it looks like timestamp was this morning. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump, but he initialed it DJT. So for those of you who don't know, the Insurrection Act is a set of federal laws that give the President of the United States the authority to deploy military domestically to restore order under specific circumstances. It's one of the most powerful emergency powers provided by law to the president. So again, that is provided by law to the president. By instituting it, President Trump would be allowed to use the U.S. military and National Guard to suppress insurrection, rebellion, or domestic violence. How much domestic violence have we seen in Minnesota? Enforce federal law when state authorities, in this case, cannot, or in this case specifically will not, protect constitutional rights when states fail to do so. Again, constitutional rights of American citizens should trump those of illegal aliens, and Minnesota's turning a blind eye to those things. So, according to the author that I just pulled this information from, which, to give credit, this is Red State from Terry Christoph, they feel Trump isn't bluffing. I'm not sure I agree. I wish I could say that he's not bluffing, but in my opinion, if he was going to do it, he would have done it already. And that's why I'm angry today. He's already gone through this in 2020. Everybody remember the Summer of Love? He's gone through this before. He hit the ground running at the beginning of this year, or last year. So everybody was under the impression that he had really learned his lesson. I'm not so sure anymore. And that's why I'm angry. Because Donald Trump at this point should not only be dealing with these protests, which have turned into riots, because again, once you're using unlawful things, even if you're supposedly protesting, that makes the gathering now unlawful, even if it was permitted. Which my first question is, how many of these things that are happening in Minnesota actually have permits? Because if not, guess what? That makes them an unlawful assembly. I don't like that law any more than you do, because I think American people should be able to protest at any time for any reason at the drop of a hat. So I'm not a fan of the permitting process. I'm really not. Never have been. But that being said, since it is the law of the land and it hasn't been changed, the people that are doing these things that are now using our own First Amendment against us and saying, well, it's mostly peaceful, should be having to deal with the legalities of the situation. So one, do they have permits? If not, get them the hell out of there. Two, as soon as they start using things that are not considered peaceful or violating other ordinances like noise ordinances or fire hazard ordinances, they should be being dealt with. But we can't, because the local and state police there don't seem to want to do their jobs, which is why ICE keeps having to do them for them. But again, there is story after story after story of fraud that's coming out. I saw a story the other day that apparently there's been a staffer that worked for either the Senate or one of the Congress critters that is being charged with stealing $150,000 worth of government phones. There was a founder of an LGBTQ alphabet mafia group that's supposed to be, like, I guess their version of a halfway house or whatever, that has been charged with some sort of fraud. I'm still trying to find the specifics on that. Again, I'm just trying to point out that our country, and I said this yesterday, again, most of our money is ones and zeros now, but we still have the illusion of being a very rich country. And the reason that I say at this point it's a lot less illusory and more of a fact is we know of at least $350 billion that has been stolen from me and you. And that's the bare minimum. And our country's still okay. How much better would our country be, though, if not for that? Remember, that's a third of our national debt right now. How much more solvent would we be if we weren't being robbed blind? I mean, just in the last few months, we've made changes that have dropped the interest rates on houses. We've brought egg prices down. Gas prices are at a 5-year low. Food prices are starting to come down because we're now starting to come out the other end of the culling of beef herds that we've had to do. So there's all kinds of outside factors that have impacted these prices, and a lot of them were being made at the FDA level, which is why Donald Trump was looking at this stuff going, we can start with, and I know he's not good at explaining. What he should have said, and I've been saying this since I heard him say it, don't say you're going to fix it day one. Say you're going to start the process to fix it day one. Everyday average Americans should have and do understand the difference, which is why you don't have a lot of people on his side screaming and yelling about how you said you were going to fix this on day one. But the zombie media Haven't called them that in a while. I need to get back to that. But the zombie media and the folks that follow the zombie media, because eventually the reason I call it the zombie media is because it eats your brains and eventually you become a zombie. So it's this whole circle of death thing. It's not the circle of life, it's the circle of death, because eventually if you've taken enough of their crap, you become brain dead. Because you can't think for yourselves anymore. You have to follow consensus. Now, I will say this. Now that Donald Trump has put this out publicly, he's put the ball in Walz' court. And if Walz doesn't get his ish together within about the next 10 to 12 hours, it's time to send in the clones, man. General Order 66, bitches. I know. That's only going to feed the left's narrative, but I don't really care anymore. Hell, I was called a Nazi on Gene's show last night, so I full-on did the salute. I don't even care anymore. I don't even care anymore. No, Raptor, you are never late. A Raptor appears exactly when it is meant to and always right on time, so you are never late, sir. I just appreciate you coming in the first place. All right, so I guess we're going to take a break. We've hit about that time anyway. So, yeah, I think we're going to take a break. I guess I could do the bluegrass one. I really like that one too. So, yeah, I have been experimenting with music creation. For those of you who don't know, we have one track that's dropped already. It's the first one that I ever wrote by myself. It was called Freedom Isn't Free. So that one's already out. On Saturday, We Ain't Changed drops on Spotify, YouTube Music, all the places you like to get your music. And that one is about the left's crazy idea that apparently we want a civil war. We don't want a civil war. We're just going to win the bitch if you start one. So think about that. But yeah, so, and then after that, so the next one that comes out, I played on the break a minute ago, which is Forged in Fire, which was inspired by, seeing America screaming and yelling at law enforcement every single day. So that one was actually supposed to come out at the end of January, but I jumped the line on it because of everything that was going on. And then the other one that's coming out at the end of January is my tribute to first responders, which is called Always Standing in the Gap. So Saturday is the next drop. I think the next drop after that is next Wednesday, and then the following Wednesday. I haven't figured out where I'm going to put this one yet, because it's not in the style of anything else that I've put out. And since I'm going to start trying to put albums together, I kind of want them to be in the same style. But since I'm releasing singles right now, I'm still torn as to whether I'm going to put this one out as a standalone until I figure out where to put it. Because it is technically done by the KLR Radio House Band folks. It's just not done in their usual style. So I don't know. I haven't officially decided yet. But I guess we will eventually find that out together. In the meantime, let's take the break. I will stop rambling. And we will be right back as we continue to talk about all the things that nobody else is talking about, because the entire media complex is focusing on Minneapolis, which is another reason why I feel like Trump should have shut this stuff down. I said stuff ages ago. You are listening to The Rick Robinson Show live on KLRN Radio. Back in a few.
When darkness grips the heart of men and truth becomes a lie, they dress their greed in borrowed prayers and call it justified. The loudest mouths preach mercy with a knife behind their smile. They laugh at those who won't bow down or walk their crooked mile. Those who stand for virtue will be rejected again and again. cast out in the cold for believing that right is still right. Even then, they'll say you're a fool for loving truth and lost for holding the line. When darkness grips the heart of men and truth becomes a lie, they trade their souls for silver and call the bargain peace. They curse the chains of righteousness while begging to be free. The crowd will cheer the liar if the lie feels warm and kind, but stones are safe for anyone who dares to reject the lies for the truth. Those who stand for virtue will be rejected again and again, branded the enemy for refusing to kneel as weak men did. They'll crown the wolves as shepherds and blindfold every eye. When darkness grips the heart of men and truth becomes a lie. Blessed are the lonely who won't betray what they believe. The road is narrow, the cost is high, but chains don't set you free. I'd rather walk with scars and God than kneel with gilded hands. Truth don't need 1,000 voices, just one that dares to stand. Those who stand for virtue will be rejected again and again, but the fire they try to bury still burns in faithful men. And then let the ages judge the moment. Let heaven hear our cry. When darkness grips the heart of men, we will not live the lie. Take his name, but truth don't die. It burns eternal flame.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign. KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real. Tune in and speak up and feel what we feel. He's breaking down the noise, cutting through the lies, shining light where the shadow hides. With guests in the mix and callers on cue, he's a voice for the many, not the few. Well, grab your coffee, raise that flag, stand your ground, never wave that rag. News with a backbone, voice of the free. Rick's got the pulse of liberty. It's a Rick Robinson Show, bold, unafraid. Truth bombs drop in a red state parade. From the plains to the power, he's speaking it loud. With a mic and a mission that makes us proud. Talk for the people, talk that's real. The Rick Robinson Show, where we say what we feel.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, for those of you working for the weekend, you are nearly there. It is Friday Eve. And I'm going to say what I used to say before the world got super serial again. If you're still working for the weekend, you might want to look for different work. Love you, though. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. We do this thing every Tuesday through Friday between the hours of 10 a.m. and noon Eastern time. Don't forget, since it is Thursday, once I'm done here, make sure you head over to our friends at SHR Media and check out Earl Jackson, also known as Mission Ready Men. Great show. I think next week, we keep trying to iron out me being able to run his show. I think next week I'm just going to fall into my old habits of better to beg forgiveness than ask permission, because I keep running out of, I don't ever have enough time to call him and hash it out. So I think we're just going to grab it. Anyway. I don't know. I may message him later, be like, "Hey, do you care if I just start running this damn thing?" I think we're on enough of a mutual level that we should do that. Besides, I've noticed, and I kind of did this on purpose. I wanted to see if me running shows for various folks that were affiliated over there actually help their numbers or not. I can say that I think they do. So I think we're actually going to start being able to show value for people for hanging out and being part of our network, which was my plan all along, because I have this evil plan to take over the world, Pinky. Anyway, sorry. I have too much allergy nose going on to try to pull off the brain today, but it was fun to try. It's been a minute. I am sad that before too much longer, I will not be able to say, Ma'am, can you see if Kathleen Kennedy's under my bed? Because apparently she is officially leaving Disney, which is a great thing for us that actually like things like Star Wars. Before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of the day, and I do want to say this. Before I started doing show notes this morning, I did get a chance to check out the first episode of Star Trek Starfleet Academy, or what we have been calling it around here, Starfleet 90210. And I gotta say, so far, I don't really hate it. Because I kind of feel like we're back at the beginning again, even though it's 900 years in the future. Because spoilers. Spoilers, if you haven't watched Discovery, then you aren't aware that 150 years before Discovery lands in its future timescape, which is the setting for this place, that the Federation nearly crumbled due to a galaxy-wide incident that made warp drive inoperable. So they figured out what the cause of it was, which was a little weird and metaphysically again, which is another reason why I didn't really like that part of it. But then again, I said this with Amish last night. So I went back and started watching the first season of TOS again. And yeah, as much as we put that show on a pedestal, and it did become really, really good, because once it went through its three season run and then its animated series run, which I actually, other than the production value, I actually enjoy the stories better in the animated series, because you actually get to see aliens instead of just people with almost no alien features because budgets were tight. So anyway, but by the time I hit the movies, there was this polished thing that had happened. I felt like I still do. I feel like the newest iterations of Shrek have kind of left that behind to a point. Like there's I don't know. It just I can't really explain it, but like the professionalism seems like it's gone. And again, nitpicking. Them saying curse words on a military ship. Yeah, I don't know. I know for us, when I was using FCC regulated radios and all these things, we weren't allowed to talk the way these people talk. So I find it weird that they do now. But again, there's no real ratings restrictions anymore. And, PG, I think they're calling it TV 14, actually does allow for some cursing. I will say the one thing that kind of gave me pause was when the captain of the Starfleet Academy starship has a wide enough chair that she was able to kind of curl up her legs in it like it was a couch. I was like, that's weird. But anyway, she's not co-hosting today, but I have sent a request to have her see if she wants to be Babe of the Month for Toxic Masculinity next month, because since she's becoming more affiliated with the network, I figured we'd introduce her to the folks around here. But yes, I am a Trekkie. I've always been a Trekkie. And I even watch the stuff everybody else hates, and I do find things that I actually like about it. Like Picard season 3 was awesome. I kind of wish Picard season 3 was the only season. 2 honestly had its moments though as well, because I'm a big fan of the alternate reality stuff. So that one had its fun moments too. But this one, like I said, I've only seen the first episode so far. I'll be checking it out probably later this week when I don't have quite so much of a workload. I'll sit down and actually pay attention to all of it again. But so far I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was gonna. There were, like I said, there were a couple things. Like the female Jem'Hadar still gives me pause. They're gonna have to explain that one's backstory. As far as I know, there have never been female Jem'Hadar, but at some point the Jem'Hadar may have actually started, stop being genetically engineered and actually started procreating like regular life forms. I have no idea. Anyway, so enough about that. That's my little bit of pop culture for the day. I do want to talk about this though, because they're that fraud thing we keep talking about. So they found even more again. Um, honestly, kind of pretty much surprising no one, but they found more. I'm trying to see if I can find the clip again because I just had it and then I accidentally clicked away from it. So I'm trying to find it again. And apparently this version of X needs to be refreshed. That's the other thing that I've noticed is different. X used to auto refresh if I had it on for a while, and it doesn't seem to want to do that anymore. Okay. All right. So I do have to give a shout out to at APL Mom, who actually is still loosely affiliated with KLR Radio and used to be co-host of the Ladies of the Red Wine. She posted this 10 hours ago: defund sanctuary cities and let them go about 3 months, and then tell them ICE will be coming. Hopefully, you will see cooperation finally. If not, keep defunding all of their programs. I agree with that. I also do have to point out that, unfortunately, Mike Miller, who occasionally makes me super, super cranky, does have a point. The president doesn't really have the authority to suspend those things. However, if he invokes the Insurrection Act, I think that may actually change a few things. But yeah, so apparently there's like $800 million worth of fraud funneled from like Ohio into Minneapolis or from Minneapolis into Ohio of this $10 billion they're finding so far. I was looking for the story. I may see if I can find it later. But I just wanted to touch on that real quick. All right. So we got to talk about this because I didn't see this until just now. Apparently somebody elected this guy to Congress. Again, this is why I keep saying at this point, I really feel like America needs a dose of tough love because we are beyond parity at this point with the things that we allow in this country. And I'm not going to say anything else. I guess it was 130 million. Like I said, I didn't have the story in front of me, so I was kind of pulling it from memory and trying to do 14 things at once. So thank you for the correction, Raptor. Yeah, 130 million from Ohio. So yeah, this is now an interstate fraud thing, not intra, which gives the feds full jurisdiction. Just so you know. Anyway, so let's watch this. It's not a very long clip, but it's an important one in my opinion.
And
hang on, what happened? Oh wait, I know what I did. It's my fault, man. It's my fault. It always is because I'm my own producer.
And we must reform ICE, but it looks.
Hey, I'm gonna be called an asshole for this, but I have to do it. With 6, you get egg roll. I'm sorry, it had to be done. All right, I'm gonna start it from the beginning since I interrupted him and it's a short clip. Why you be here for an hour? The sign say all you can eat. Not all you. The sign say all you can eat. Now you eat everything. You've been here for an hour. You go home now.
And we must reform ICE, but it looks at this stage, folks, ICE is beyond reform. ICE is totally out of control, and this week I intend to introduce a bill to abolish ICE. We need to make ICE go away. 2003, before 2003, without ICE, various federal agencies were able to take care of business, and we can do this without ICE. But we do not need the murderers. We do not need these paramilitary organizations, members on our street terrorize us.
Okay, so not to come across as completely racist, I do realize after listening to this man talk, I should have been doing that. Thank you, come again. But anyway, I'm sorry for nothing. I will say this again, though, just one more time. What the hell? What have we done, America? The ICE is beyond reform. So I only have one semi-serious question. Do you realize what a riot you're gonna have when most of America can't keep their drinks cold anymore. Just saying. Anyway. All right. Oh yeah, I forgot. You're actually from Ohio. You know, I was in your neck of the woods a couple years ago. I should have figured out where you were and stopped by. Don't yell at me because I just thought of that. Anyway. So yeah, so we have to reform. We can't even reform ICE anymore, ladies and gentlemen. They have to be disbanded. Whatever. You can barely speak English. Okay, so let's see what other trouble I can get into for the next 5 minutes or so till we start lining out the next break. Oh yeah. So remember this fraud stuff we've been talking about? What if I told you there's more? So this is from yesterday. And it's Nick Shirley again. Let's watch together. Because I'm starting with this whole fraud thing, I'm starting to feel like the infomercial guy. But wait, there's more. That's my best Ron Popeil impersonation. Don't tell me how I did because I don't want to know.
I'm asking No. You don't ask me nothing. $2.25 million. Get out.
Are we the only community that does fraud?
How come they said this building was closed? Do you guys know where Advanced Mobility is? Advanced Mobility? Yeah, we're looking for it. Never heard of it?
They know we're shining the light on the fraud, and they have no defense.
Would you like to see anybody in the government here held accountable?
Most definitely, because there can definitely be an allocation of funds.
The Minnesota fraud scandal continues to get worse and worse as billions of dollars of fraud has been exposed, and as I showed the world the blatant fraud taking place at daycares and other locations across Minnesota, it became the most viewed video expose on the internet and created instant change within the government as the Fed sent thousands of federal agents to Minnesota, and the HHS froze over $185 million in all payments to childcare. And while politicians like Tim Walz call people like me white supremacists and far-right delusional conspiracy theorists for exposing the fraud, meanwhile, he actually dropped out of running for re-election. The Minnesota fraud scandal has erupted the nation as protests and riots took place, all starting because daycares like Quality Learning Center were exposed. However, the daycares is only a small portion of the fraud taking place in Minnesota. In this video, I will take you into what has continued to allow this fraud to happen and connect all of the dots for you, exposing all of the fraud from strange connections of the business owners and the politicians who have openly admitted to the fraud on live TV. And to dive deep into the fraud, I met back up with the local David, who has been investigating this widespread fraud scandal for years. So here in Minnesota, you have daycare fraud, you have adult daycare fraud, you have healthcare fraud, and you even have more fraud. What's some of the fraud that's also taking place here inside of Minnesota?
Well, what I think might be sort of the heart of the beast here is this transportation fraud. And what I mean by that is in Minnesota, we have something called non-emergency medical transportation, NEMT. My research has shown that there are about 1,020 such companies in Minnesota, and more than 90% of them are Somali owned.
And so right here on the table, what do we have? All this information right here.
So I have a number of companies that are local here in the Twin Cities, and this is just a fraction of the companies that are out there. What I found was that the national average for a non-emergency medical transportation company is 20 vehicles per company. A lot of these companies, their address is an apartment, some are in a house, some are in a convenience store, some of them in a vacant building. There's no signage, there's nobody there.
Again. And so why would there be such a need for all these transportation companies here inside of Minnesota?
So if you think of this transportation as the hub of the wheel, so childcare is a spoke, adult daycare is a spoke, autism is a spoke, the interpreter services, which we can get into, that's another spoke. It all ties back to transportation. Why? Because those meals someone had to deliver those meals. Someone has to deliver the kid to adult daycare.
So this is a very long video, so I will probably put out the article that it's attached to here in a little bit. But I want to talk about this part right here. So hang on. So yeah, I want to talk about this stuff. So and hang on, I'm gonna try to advance. There we go. I want to get all of the offshoots. So this is basically the hub of the fraud. So the transportation companies for non-emergency medical transportation, and all this feeds back into the childcare fraud, the adult daycare fraud, the translation and healthcare fraud, the autism centers fraud. So we're seriously talking about a spider web of fraud. So you want to know why the mayor of Minneapolis and the governor of Minnesota are wanting you focusing on this, on the violence, because they don't want you paying attention to this. Hey, Zelda, how are things? Not sure why you said it twice, but that makes it twice as nice. So thank you. Anyway, so but yeah, so that this is what they don't want you focusing on. This is why Governor Walz is basically calling for outright insurrection. He calls it resistance, but in fact, it's insurrection. And I would like to remind everybody what we're talking about here is the fact that, again, if you really don't want ICE going door to door and you don't want ICE pulling people out of cars when they're dumb enough to block traffic as a form of protest, which is illegal, again, by the way, and does actually impede federal operations, which is a federal felony. You know, we talk about this all the time. Then just have them honor the detainers. But they can't, because this goes into so many different things. So you've got the fraud. You've got the fact that a lot of these people are allowed to vote whether they want to tell you they are or not. This is the reason why they keep this is the reason why they keep refusing to turn over their voter roll data. They keep refusing to turn over their Medicaid and Medicare data. They keep refusing to turn over their food stamp data, because they know that these people that are here illegally are bilking us for everything that they can grab. And for those of you who don't realize that this is a feature, not a bug, especially for the Somali people, if you research Somalia, they are just as common to be stealing from their government there. So for them, they don't feel like they're doing anything wrong. This is how their entire country they came from is ran. So they feel like they're allowed to do it here because it's acceptable where they came from, so it should be acceptable here. And this is the problem again, and I say this all the time. This is the problem with trying to ascribe to people our cultural norms that don't have them, whether it be Western culture versus Middle Eastern culture, or even nationalities coming in from other countries. You have to understand where these people came from, how it is that they live their lives, before you can understand why it is that in some cases they do the things that they do. The problem that I have with all this isn't the fact that, you know, they do this in their home country, except for the fact I'm pretty sure if we go back and trace it, Somalia was probably getting quite a bit of our money until Donald Trump shut things like that down for the most part, too. So then what happened? So we start these fraud rings, and then we're sending back, even at last count, anywhere between $9 to $10 trillion, which is 2/3 of Somalia's annual GDP. So how much of that fraud is accounting for their $12 billion annual GDP? And how many other countries are having our funds bilked from us and shipped to them? We haven't even really started looking into that yet, which is why I was so happy to hear that governors like DeSantis and a few others have started the process for illegals that live in Florida, and I think there was one other state, but I can't remember which one, to stop the process to be able to send money overseas using wire transfers. It's just done. They can't do it anymore. You know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. You just woke up. I should have known. Anyway, dude. All right. So we're going to take a break. We're going to take a music break. I know. Everybody's like, another one? You just took one. I know it feels like that to me too, but we got to take one. All right. So I don't know. I'm digging this one. So we're going to play this one again. And it's my show, so I can play what I want. You don't like the music I play? Talk to me about starting your own show. Just saying. I will help you make it happen. It's what I do, man. It's what I do. All right, so we are going to take a break, but first I got to up the right way. And
somebody remember.
It didn't work. Hang on. I tried to pause it. It didn't pause. All right, let's try this again. And let me go full screen because I forgot I actually already was on that screen. All right, now let's go.
They say it's only real if somebody remembers. They say your legacy is only real if they can point and say that's him. If the room goes quiet when I walk in, if my shadow's longer than my sin, numbers climbing, names on screens, always craving accolades and needing to be seen. If they don't see me, I don't matter. If I'm not winning, what's the use? I gotta leave something carved in stone, something louder than the truth I know. Cause silence feels too close to death, and being forgotten scares me most. The world says it only matters if they see me, if they know my name. If I'm up in lights, I gotta burn it so they remember. Before the darker night claims the light, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Yeah, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Say my name, don't let me fade away. I watch the faithful go unnoticed, hands so dirty from the work they never chase. Recognition, always walking in faith. Every prayer said in the shadows, every choice nobody praised. They weren't building monuments to fame, just kneeling to pray. Even when it was tough to stay, I felt the weight of what I wanted and the cost of what it took. I was chasing something empty while the answer overlooked. The world says it only matters if they see me, if they know my name. If I'm up in light, gotta burn it so they remember. Before the darker night claims the light, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Yeah, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. If they don't see me, I don't exist. If they don't clap, did I even live? I need my name in fire and sparks. I gotta make it loud before the lights go dark. Truth be told, and God alone knows, I chase the crowd just to feel complete. I measure worth by clout, by those surrounding me. But there's only one name that matters, and I lay mine down to claim it. All these years I tried to leave a legacy when I was called to carry his name. The only thing worth leaving behind is a life that pointed back to him. Not my glory, not my fire, just faith that held when the whole world dimmed. It shouldn't matter if they knew my name. My life should be the proof of his glory. What matters is what they saw in me when the world was watching how I live my life. It never mattered if they saw me or if they ever knew my name. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day, then I ran my race the right way. Let the lights fade, let the noise fall. Heaven knows the choice I made. I don't need my name in the spotlight if they saw Jesus in my walk each day. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day. If heaven knows my name, that's enough of name. That's enough of me. They say it's only real if somebody remembers. They say your legacy is only real if they can point and say that's him. If the room goes quiet when I walk in, if my
Okay, I completely missed the part about Zelda drinking an energy drink. So just in case, do we have a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? Because we might need one. Twitch. Anyway, welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rick Robinson. We've hit the final segment of the Friday Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Rick Robinson Show. It's pretty bad when I can't even pronounce my own name sometimes. But I got in a hurry. So anyway. But yeah, so we keep sending Congress critters that can't speak English. So okay, so we got to talk about this. I know I've been trying to shift back to the fraud side of things, but I keep finding stuff that piques my interest about the arguments that I keep having with everybody about, oh my God, he killed her in cold blood, blah 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 blah. Anyway, so let's discuss. Let us discuss, and I want to thank Sam for putting this on my radar. Anyway, here we go. Maybe. Oh wait, I know what it is. I did it again. Here we go.
Don't take this personally, but everybody just shut the fuck up. Every single hot button issue that comes up, everybody becomes an expert on it. What happened in Minnesota, this woman who is now dead, sadly, she leaves a child and a wife. And it shouldn't have happened. I have a right to comment on this more than 99.9% of all of you. So listen to what I'm fucking saying here. Why? Because I am the protester. You understand this? For 35 years, this is what I've been doing. Thousands of protests, dozens upon dozens of arrests. And the reason I am still here, or I don't have stitches from a fucking billy club, or I don't have marks from a taser, is right here in this image. Every single time that I have been arrested, you will notice my hands I place behind my back, as I am told when I get arrested. I do not resist, I do not spit, I do not curse, I do not struggle, I do not fight or be aggressive towards the authorities who are there to arrest me, because when we protest, we step over a line that is there, and that line happens to be called the fucking law. And thank God in this country, we can step over that line sometimes, but we have to understand that we are now in a different zone, because that cop over there, I think his kid's got leukemia. That cop over there, I know, was in a bank robbery last night with the thugs, and he got shot at, and he's back out in the street, but he's all high tension. And that guy over there, that cop, I know his wife is fucking a mailman, so I'm in a high tension area. And these fuckers have guns, batons, and tasers.
That part got me.
We have a system in this country, it's called a court of fucking law. And whether I'm wrong or right in the situation, officer, I didn't do anything wrong. Put your hands behind your back. Yes, sir. And I will take that up with the judge and prove my innocence. I do not bring the courtroom right there at that high tension fucking moment. Do you get what I'm saying, people? So, this woman would still be alive. I don't think she was the kind of woman that would have done what she did, which was resist and be aggressive towards the authorities, as you see in the video, and you can all fight about that. But let's get to the base here. The base is the wife is probably looking to sue Trump or the police or the ICE or this or the that. She needs to look at the Democrat, liberal politicians, community activists, and the fucking douchebag, motherfucking self-loathing, divisive cocksuckers in the liberal fucking media that tell her and those like her to resist arrest and be aggressively violent towards any authority.
Okay, so look, I honestly, because I remember him from the pictures that he held up, but I didn't know who that was. And I only played it because Sam, otherwise known as Politibunny on X, or Foo, put this out and said, show this to everybody. And I agree with everything this man said. Look, I don't have that's just it. I don't care about these people protesting. I never have. They legally have a right to protest. I don't even necessarily care. I'm okay. Language warning, earmuffs, 3, 2, 1. I don't even give a shit in most cases that they may not bother to get a permit, because you know what? That's a version of show me your papers. I don't like that. But the problem is when you decide to tiptoe over that line, and then you decide to take a flying leap past the point where you tiptoed, then you've got the full weight of the law that should be coming down on you. And it should be. I showed you clips earlier today where these people are setting off what appear to be, from the size of the explosions and the size of the visual size of the explosions and the sound that I was hearing, likely commercial grade fireworks, which are illegal to set off within city limits without a permit. And typically in most cities only allowed to be used with a permit during certain times of the year, allowed New Year's Eve and 4th of July. So now we have 2 potential infractions for these people. Then you have the people that are blocking thoroughfares. That is also against the law. You cannot impede the flow of traffic, especially not emergency traffic. The same people that were screaming and yelling about supposedly how this ICE agent who supposedly fled the scene was also stopping an ambulance from getting through. You guys are doing that all the time when you're blocking traffic. I heard about it was a few months ago, but I heard about a woman who nearly had to give birth in an ambulance because she couldn't get to the hospital because the roads were being blocked by protesters. So this is why I'm saying America needs a dose of tough love, because we apparently have re-entered our teenage rebellious phase. And we're not listening to the people of authority anymore because we refuse to acknowledge these people have authority over us in the first place. And again, rebellion is kind of what we were founded on. So if you're keeping it within the lines, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. If you don't like what ICE is doing, fight to change the laws where you live. If you don't like what ICE is doing, then peacefully protest. But don't block traffic. Don't make things worse for these people that are just trying to do their jobs. Even if you don't agree with their jobs, they're just trying to do their jobs. None of us that have done that kind of work have ever come into your job or your place of business and told you repeatedly to your face as loudly as possible while blowing whistles, spitting in your face, throwing your work product around that you suck at your job. If this is the type of America that you want to live in, just a reminder, for the left, violence is a dial. For the right, it is a switch. You are getting dangerously close to a lot of us just going ahead and deciding to flip the fucking switch, because you've already ramped your dial up to 11T while we're still calling for calm in the room. While we're trying to make you people understand that we're not coming after you. We're coming after rapists and murderers and people that have done terrible things. But you keep standing between us and them. When you decide to stand between us and them, you become part of the problem, not part of the solution. So if you happen to decide that you're going to try to run over a federal agent with your car, you deserve whatever comes to you. And I don't say that in any type of flippant way at all. I'm simply telling you that, again, you grew up in a generation where everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a note of participation, everybody gets an attaboy or an attagirl, but now you're out in the real world and the natural world where there are natural consequences to your actions. And so many of you have never had to face those consequences because you've believed all your teachers, especially for us white folk who have been saying now for 2 generations, well, you're different because you're white. You don't have the hardships that the people that are brown have, or the people that are red have, or the people that are yellow have. You don't have those things. The fuck I do not. I'm part Irish. When are we going to start talking about Irish slave reparations? You know why we don't talk about those things? Because Irish people look white. The second-class citizen thing in America wasn't just restricted to skin color. We had vulgar nicknames for every fucking body that wasn't actually WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, for those of you who don't know what the fuck I'm saying. If you weren't those things, if you were Catholic, they had a nickname for you. If you were Italian, they had a nickname for you. If you were Polish, they had a nickname for you. If you were Mexican, they had a nickname for you. If you were Asian, they had a nickname for you. We were equal opportunity assholes to anybody who wasn't us. And I say us loosely because I now understand that a good portion of my DNA is native. I did not know that, which, again, if you've not listened to my show before, if you've heard me mention me being really confused as a kid. Because remember when they gave you those little cards where you had to check your nationality? Because, different nationalities got different amounts of fundings in schools, even way back in the 70s when I started going to school. And I always remember my parents arguing, in kindergarten, first grade, about what box they were going to check. And I'm looking, what do you mean? I'm looking at my skin going, what do you mean, what box? Why? And I just, I got to stay out of grown folk business line. So I did, which I have to admit, I've been watching things on Hulu that I'd never really paid that much attention to before. I'm kind of sad that the relaunch of Wonder Years only got 2 seasons because one had Dule Hill in it, which I love that man. He's pretty cool. Better in this than he was in Suits, but by then all the main characters were gone other than Harvey, so it was kind of weird. But I love the fact that half the time when the kids bring something up that doesn't have anything to do with them, both of the parents turn in unison and stay out of grown folk business. Yeah, that was kind of how that conversation went. But seriously though, I had no idea what was being talked about because I grew up in a time when those things had stopped mattering as much. We were starting to see how other folks lived on TV. We were starting to see, integration at that point had been going on for over a decade, so it wasn't anything new to me. When I went into school, it was already a thing. So I didn't pay attention to the skin color of my friends. I only paid attention to the fact of whether or not they were nice people to be around. But now we've gone the other way. We're back to this hyper partisan, hyper group mind, hyper if you're not like me, you're against me kind of thing. And it's a lot more prevalent on the left than they want you to believe. And they've learned to use it well. Protesting, which eventually turned into riots, but the media never calls them that, has become their most effective tool. Remember, that was their selling point for why so many people turned out to vote for Joe Biden, even though when the cracks started showing in their narrative and people that were trying to bring attention to those cracks in their narrative, that they fell apart. But remember, everybody was just tired. There was so much fighting and angst and anger while Trump was in office that they just wanted to be able to, say it with me, turn the page. But we now know none of that was true. I guarantee you, if we actually got to crack the books on all the places where Donald Trump was winning before we all went to bed, we would probably find ballot after ballot after ballot that would make no sense. It wouldn't make a difference for 2020. There's no mechanism to put an asterisk next to it. There's no mechanism to toss it out and start over. There's no grounds to say, well, since it was stolen from him, we think he should get another term. We don't have anything like that. But what it would allow us to do is to finally see, understand, and know the truth and start figuring out how to move on from that point forward. And to me, that's the most important part. That's why I always try to talk about these things. That's why I always try to make a point to make sure that you guys know I'm not trying to be a dick. Normally I manage to pull that off on purpose or by accident, not on purpose. But I'm not actually trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to point out that way too many things in this country are broken. We're being stolen from. We're being lied to. We have a media, thanks to Barack Obama, making it okay for American media companies to use propaganda on its own people again, that is openly lying to us. And sometimes it happens on both sides. I'm not holding my side blameless. But I am saying you have to be educated enough and intelligent enough. And I don't mean educated Ivy League school style, because we all know that's trash now. Dude, and that's terrible, because I remember when I was in high school, I used to love to run. And one of my favorite, I had a Harvard jogging suit, because at one point, like I said, I was considering becoming an attorney. And I was gonna do this was before high school. This was junior high. So at that point, I decided I was going to get serious about my academics because up until then, I'd kind of coasted. Remember, I'm the asshole that has everybody's homework as a part of their weighted grade. Now I'm one of the people that caused that because I used to be able to skip all my homework, pass my test, and still get a C average. Drove my teachers crazy, drove my mom crazy. But it's just the only time that plan never really worked was fourth grade because at that point I just didn't care. My parents were getting a divorce, and I just said I don't care anymore. So yeah, I wound up, even though I had a 69, giggity, my mom still told my teacher that we were going to hold me back because she wouldn't accept anything less than a C, and it didn't matter if technically in this school D was passing. Now I will say, moving around, that messed with my mojo a bit because in some of the schools I went to, it wasn't a 10-point thing anymore. So in schools I was going to when, from K through 4, 4, 5, and that was it. Because by sixth grade I was in Seattle. So that did mess with my mojo for a couple of weeks. Well, actually a couple months when I first moved, because the grading scale in Seattle was completely different. 93 to 100 was an A. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then what was it? 85 to 90. It was it was 86 to 93 was a B. So that made 79 to 86 a C. So here I am coasting at 70, 71, and suddenly in this new land that I lived in, that was now considered a D. I was really confused by that for a couple months, and then I figured out, I'll just turn in a few assignments. It'll bump the average up. Yeah, and then by the time I hit 8th, 9th grade, they were figuring out that they started weighting homework, and I'm like, son of a anyway, so, yeah, but look, this is part of the reason why I feel like I'm kinda the best person to talk about America entering its teenage rebellion phase, because my entire high school and junior high career was my teenage rebellion phase, and I know what it took for me to finally wake the fuck up and realize that the world does in fact have consequences, and that was me having to face some of those consequences. So this is my point to all of you. By perpetuating this idea that Renee Good was some sort of a martyr, that she was just trying to come home from taking her kid to school and was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that she was murdered because he shot her through the passenger window, not from the front of the car, even though the forensic evidence plainly says otherwise. At least the forensic evidence that I've been able to see. I'll be interested to see how much of the autopsy, if there is one, actually gets released. But it's time for some tough love. And that is why, if I were Donald Trump, now that I've put that out into the ether, because as a parent, I will tell you this, one of the worst things I did as a parent who was learning how to be a parent, because this shit doesn't come with an instruction manual, was threatening to do things to my children and then not following through, or threatening to say, if you do this, this is going to happen, and then not following through. Because then when I was serious, they didn't know they were serious. My daughter is learning this because Gracie, who is about to be 6 years old, she likes to randomly just, being ornery with her, play this little game of, okay, you're grounded, and they both laugh about it until mom is serious about Gracie being grounded, and Gracie's laughing, and mom's like, no, I'm not kidding this time. Actions have consequences. So if you're in one of these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, you really need to be talking to your mayor and your governor and saying, look, just honor the ICE detainers until they're done. Because I guarantee you, some of these lesser offenders that are being scooped up in all this mess probably wouldn't even have been messed with until closer to the end of the term, if at all, if they were able to go in and just grab all the super bad ones first like they had planned on. But we can't, because you guys have decided that we are Nazis and these are the new Jews. When in reality, the truth of it is that you guys are still the Democrats and you're fighting to keep your slaves. I said what I said. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this one. I was going to do a quick scan of the headlines real quick just to see if anything else has popped off while we've been sitting here. But again, actually, before I do that, let me put out this article because I told you guys I was going to do that. So this is from Bob Hoge over at Red State, and it has the entirety of the Nick's order video, which is a total of 51 minutes and 19 seconds. They also do have some of it split up a little bit further down. It looks like so, but let me go ahead and put this out on my X feed. All right, and I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to wrap because I'm going to go hang out in Earl's chat for a little bit while I'm working on a couple of different things. I encourage you to head over to SHR Media's YouTube channel and do the same. Say hi. If you haven't gone over there yet and click the follow button or the subscribe button, make sure you do that. Again, that doesn't mean what it means everywhere else. It just means that that you actually want to have easy access to finding their channel. What I would recommend that you do is hit that subscribe button and then click the notification bell. But that's up to you. I'm not your boss. You can do what you want. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. I'll be back with you hopefully tonight. I think, well, first of all, I guess I'll be pushing buttons for the Disasters in the Making crew tonight starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then hopefully after that, Jen and Rick will be live again. She is actually learning a new gig, though, so I'm trying not to put too much pressure on her while she's doing that. So I will text her in a little bit and see if she wants to do a show tonight or not. And then don't forget, we've got BZ live tonight, one way or the other, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern time, I think. Is it 11? Yeah, so 8 to 8 Pacific, yeah, would be 10 my time, 11 Eastern time. Sometimes the math doesn't math. Want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us today. Looks like numbers were down from yesterday, but I also know that X has been doing some random stuff with their algorithms, so we're still trying to figure all that out too. Have a great rest of your day, folks, and make sure you come back later tonight. Or actually, have a great rest of your day and go hang out with Earl. You will do these things that I have told you to do because I have told you to do them because I am Mojo Jojo. Ha 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 ha. Say goodnight, Gracie.